Remember how we have said in the past that Trump always chickens out? Well, just days away from Wednesday's high-stakes Supreme Court hearing over his tariffs, Trump is going back on something he said last month about potentially attending those arguments. Listen to what he told reporters on Air Force One.
So will you attend the oral arguments?
No, I don't think so, because I don't want to call a lot of attention to me. It's not about me. It's about our country. I'll be going to Miami. I'm going to make a speech in front of a large group of people in Miami and said I wanted to go so badly. I just don't want to do anything to deflect the importance of that decision.
Joining us now, Paul Butler, MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor, and Max Rose, former New York congressman and senior advisor for Vote Vets. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Paul, can you explain sort of the broad strokes for what is at stake in this case? It's not just about tariffs, which, matter to people because they're raising prices. It's about executive power.
It's about whether the president can randomly claim that there's an emergency and use that as an excuse to evade Congress and do whatever he wants to do. So the Court of Appeals said that when Trump invoked this act, it's called the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, that it was a power grab because it's Congress's responsibility to regulate tariffs. It's not the responsibility of the president of the United States. And it's not just tariffs where Trump has claimed an emergency. He used that to try to deport people without due process. He's used it to bring the National Guard to Washington, D.C. He's used it in any number of ways that the court in this case could say, go right ahead, Mr. President, do what you want to do, because we're not going to second guess you whenever you say there's an emergency. And just quickly to say how extreme it is, the emergency he's claiming to have tariffs against Canada, Mexico, and China is the fentanyl crisis. Now, that's a crisis, but it's hard to know what China and Canada.
Well, not even just the fentanyl crisis. Trump announced that he was going to cut off trade negotiations over these tariffs because he was so mad that the leader of Ontario had produced an ad with Ronald Reagan's own words. I mean, it's like...
It's a crisis, Catherine.
It's an emergency.
Come on, he's being trolled by a...
It almost feels like...
minor official in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we have a new True Social post from Trump about tariffs that we're going to put up on the screen, and just say next week's case on tariffs is one of the most important in the history of the country. If a president is not allowed to use tariffs, we will be at a major disadvantage. So, Max, how do you think this is landing politically when new polling, NBC poll and a Washington Post poll that was both out today show that tariffs are Trump's most unpopular policy, yet he's more wedded politically to it than ever before?
Well, first of all, I think Donald Trump made his decision about the Supreme Court because he found out there are no video cameras.
That is a very wise insight.
It's like Court TV or Judge Judy.
He said, I'm out, not interested. Look, Donald Trump, this has been a part of his political ideology for decades, and there's no chance that he's stepping away from it. The challenge is, though, for him, is that the world has moved beyond the economic realities of when these ideas were formed for him. All he is doing with these tariffs is making it harder for hardworking Americans to buy the things that they so desperately need. That's one. Number two, though, he's hurting his own political base. When did that ever become a political thing, to exact economic hardship upon the people who voted for you? If you look at the farmers who he's actively trying to bail out, the only reason why he's having to do that is because of these tariffs. He's caught between a horrible rock and a hard place, but it's not just him, it's his entire party, and you have to think that this is going to be a leading issue in the upcoming midterms.
It's not just farmers, there are manufacturers that are actually hurt by this, as he is promising to bring back this manufacturing renaissance. Manufacturing firms in the United States buy inputs from abroad. They buy steel, they buy machinery, and they are suffering. Construction companies, everything that goes into a house right now is tariff. So it's hurting consumers, it's hurting businesses. There's a part of me that kind of wonders if the Supreme Court actually strikes down these tariffs, if it'll be a gift for Donald Trump, because all of a sudden you'll see less price pressure. You'll see a lot of companies get these big rebates from the tariffs that they've already paid. And I wonder, would it actually be good for Donald Trump in a way? Because it could be good for the economy.
You mean politically for him to walk himself off the cliff that he put himself on?
Yes, I'm sure he hasn't thought that through, but if we get a little boom out of all of this, he'll definitely take credit.
Yeah, so the president does have some other limited authority other than this act he's using to declare tariffs. It just takes longer. One instance, he has to get approval from the Commerce Department, which means they have to issue a report. So it takes long. And Donald Trump, he likes to get things done now. If the court does say that the tariffs are illegal, there'll be an economic issue, interesting legal issue with like $90 billion now. Who gets it back? Does everybody get a refund? Do consumers get a refund?
Yeah, how do you get your refund? It's going to become a big thing. It'll be the Trump rebate.
Yeah,
yes,
the Supreme Court would have to figure that out. But there'll also be an interesting political issue because he's used these tariffs to try to get countries to do things that have nothing to do with economics, but that he wants them to do. So he used it to try to negotiate some kind of treaty between Pakistan and India. He used it to try to force the Supreme Court of Brazil to say that the prosecution of its former president was unconstitutional. So if he was just using this as kind of a hammer and that hammer goes away, what happens to those agreements?
Can I ask you quickly, Paul, about the story of Kash Patel using the private jet to, I guess, go hang out with his girlfriend or whatever? Is this normal behavior? And will there be any kind of consequences for this? Is that typically allowed?
No, it's not normal, and no, there won't be any consequences. Antonio, when I was at DOJ, we couldn't even use frequent flyer points for legitimate travel. That's how serious DOJ used to be about these policies. But now, again, they've gotten rid of all the people who would hold anybody there accountable, all the inspector generals, all the people who have expertise in prosecuting public corruption. They're all gone.
The key phrase there is used to be.